42% swing, dependent on their results. So let's go on trend around some of these games. And the Colts come into the game with a 6-7 record. That's good news for Bo Nix and the Broncos. The Broncos 7-0 this season, averaging more than 30 points per game against teams currently 500 or worse. But against teams that have a winning record, they're 1-5, and Nix throws more picks than touchdowns. Marcus, do you expect this trend to continue for Nix this weekend?
I do, Boogie. I do expect the Denver Broncos to go out and have some success. Obviously, this defense is going to pressure and put Anthony Richardson in some compromising situations where he's either going to have to use his legs or be able to push the ball down the field consistently with accuracy. We saw them make a tremendous amount of plays against Cleveland in a tight game where this defense came through with a Bonito interception. I expect the trend for the Broncos to continue to beat a team that's under 500.
Let's go to Miami, being on the road.
All right. This is just, we got to look at this. We got to unpack this a little bit. Man, I've made a lot of videos today, and I've just been hit hard with just really misleading graphics like this, like in a row, and it's just like, oh man, we gotta attack this head on first before we kind of expand. So, okay, 1-5 for teams over 500. Let's look at this. First off, we got the Seahawks. That was his first game ever in the NFL, okay? His first game in the history of the his first game in his own history of the NFL. Then they played the Steelers, also a great defense. His second game, obviously trying to get things situated. Then played the Broncos. Then played the Jets in an absolute storm. Is finally now at this point starting to get things going against the Raiders. Goes up against the Chargers, who have a great defense. We saw what they were able to do to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Saints are obviously not that good. We know the Panthers have been feisty. Going up against the Ravens, which again, this is where things can be so misleading. Bo Nix played great that game. I know they only put up 10 points, but if you actually watch that game, Bo Nix was not the problem. Bo Nix was literally doing everything he could in that game to kind of have any type of chance at anything. To me, it looked like a game where he played for a bad high school team, but he was a great quarterback and it's just a great athlete, and it's just like he's the only great player on the team. And, you know, he was just doing everything he could, catching touchdowns and stuff, like, you know, just doing literally anything he could. So, again, when you actually kind of go through these games, when you see a bunch of these games and how they've unfolded against the Chiefs, like, he played great against the Chiefs. Like, not every game that you play great in is going to give you 1,000,000 points and this great touchdown to interception ratio. Just not going to happen. So it's just so misleading to reduce things down to your record, your team's points per game, and your touchdown to interception ratio. Because what this makes this look like is that Bo Nix is good versus bad teams and bad versus good teams. And it's just not accurate. It's just not accurate. It's the combination of, first off, he played really good against good teams, but again, those teams were just better in those moments. And two, he played a bunch of teams with a winning record in the very beginning of his career as in the NFL. Like, so of course things aren't going to be great there. So that's where I take issue with that. And it's just, man, like these types of graphics just drive me nuts, man. They really do. Exciting. But I think this is going to be one of those one of those games that's actually kind of similar to the Browns in a way, because you have Jameis Winston and AR, both insanely, wildly unpredictable quarterbacks. You have no idea if that quarterback for AR now, the quarterback for the Colts, you have no idea if he's going to look like a Hall of Famer or he's going to look like an actual high school quarterback. I mean, it actually caused me angst to watch him. And I'm rooting for him just from a personal standpoint. Like I don't want to see any of these guys fail. I want to see them, achieve their dreams and play well. But he's just so inconsistent. For those of you who maybe haven't watched a lot of him, especially if you're some diehard Broncos fan, I mean, like he he just looks like, in some moments, he looks like he could be the greatest quarterback that you've ever seen in the history of the NFL. And in many, 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 many other moments, he looks like he's never actually played a game in the NFL, but he's just wildly athletic. And they're like, hey, bud, we need you to be quarterback. The quarterback bus, went in the wrong direction. They took a wrong turn on the freeway. Can you be the quarterback right now? And he's like, sure, I'll try my best. And it's just like, all right. This game could be a shootout. It could be nothing. It could be the Broncos roll. Like, I mean, like it's just a kind of a mess of a team. Honestly, a bunch of the games they had Joe Flacco in there, and it's the Colts are just, like I said, they are a legitimate mess. I don't know how to make sense of them, where they even stand right now with AR's development. He's been getting a little bit better, but then he's like kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. Like it's just a mess. It's just a mess. So that actually makes this game, from an outsider looking in, like actually pretty fun to watch. Because if the Colts, if they were just like kind of like consistently who they were, then you would say, oh yeah, Bo Nix Broncos, they should have this game, let's go. And I do think that the Broncos will win this game and should win this game, but it is like, if you're a Broncos fan, you actually should have angst watching this game against AR, because he could literally just throw like a 70-yard touchdown like that. And again, it was very much like what the experience was when you were watching Jameis Winston, where it was like Jameis Winston's either going to throw 4 interceptions or 10 touchdowns. Like, the guy is letting it rip. And again, he's either throwing it like truly in the hands of a Denver Broncos defender, or he's hitting a beautiful deep throw for a touchdown. And I don't know about you, that gives me anxiety watching those games. When I was watching the Broncos versus the Browns, I was like, oh my God, like what is happening here right now? I had no idea even what to expect in that moment. And this is just a very similar game for me. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one, honestly. I do want to see the Broncos offense. It's so hard because, again, against the Browns, they were so reliant on Bo, as you could see, right? He had to really let it rip, and they really had him moving around back there, making some pretty big throws in his own end zone and whatnot. And I think it's awesome to be able to see that trust and see what Bo Nix can be able to do. But again, when you're talking about a sustainability factor, it's like, I just want to see that run game get going. Like some of these stats like this, it's like, I just would love to see them to be able to win games when needing less from their literal rookie quarterback. I don't know if it's possible right now just because of how the team is, or even if it's necessary from a developmental standpoint. Fortunately / unfortunately, the Broncos are actually in 2 different worlds right now, right? One is developing their young quarterback, and 2 is actually like, we can also win this year as well. And at the heart of it, though, the main objective is to have Bo Nix continue to improve, evolve, and get better and better and better. So by year 2, it's like truly like we are hitting the ground running. Like we are a legitimate like threat to win the division, be an actual like, higher up seed in the playoffs. Like we are a real team. We're not just kind of happy to be here. Whereas this year, it definitely feels more like, hey, we're just happy to be here. We kind of wrote this ship now. Like this is great. We got our quarterback. Everything else is kind of gravy. But at the same time, Bo Nix is getting better and better and better. They are definitely, obviously, ahead of schedule. And so now there's that feeling of like, well, hey, we can actually win. We can do some damage this season. Like, we're not just happy to be here. But it's like, so it's multifaceted. And it's not like they're mutually exclusive in the way where it's like, in order to win now, you're now going to hold back the development of Bo Nix. I don't mean it in that sense either. It's just there's certain game plans where I think you would kind of almost be like, I don't care what happens. I don't care. I'm trying to win the game, obviously, but like we got to try to expand what Bo Nix is doing within his game. I want to try to put more on his plate. Like you're just going to make certain decisions. Whereas like if you're definitely 100% only trying to win right now, you'd be like, you know what? Let's hold off on some of these other things. I know Bo Nix is really good at X, Y, and Z. So we're just going to stick to that right now. I'm not going to try to worry about anything else. Here we go. It's going to be less of like a playground mentality as much as an NFL game can be an actual playground. So yeah, these games really matter right now, as highlighted by just kind of the playoff odds with a win here. And what beating the Colts also does is, just from like a standing standpoint, it just kind of also pushes them down just in terms of the wild card. So it's like that also then will obviously boost. But there was a little confusion because with the standings for the Broncos, I'm gonna look it up right now. Okay, so yeah, here I have it here now. There seems to be a little confusion, because obviously you can see some of these records are tied and whatnot, and people kind of came out and said, "Oh, the Broncos are actually." Some of the other sites have them not the 7 but the 6 seed, ahead of the Chargers, and I didn't have any thoughts on that because I didn't know that, but I'm on NFL.com, and I checked ESPN as well, and they both have them here. They have the Chargers 6 and the Broncos 7. But again, depending on how some of these games unfold, the Broncos can literally leapfrog up and go to 5th, which again just changes everything from who you're playing. Because obviously, if you stay at 7, whether it's the Chiefs or the Bills, that's a tough game. Obviously, the best bet is to kind of be in that kind of middle ground, because then you're not going up against the teams. Because first round going up against the Steelers, Bills, and Chiefs will be hard. There's no disputing that, and your chance of getting that playoff win that in the first round is obviously going to drop. And a lot of people use the Texans as an example, where they were able to play the Browns in that first round and get this big win, this big boost. Same thing with the Packers playing the Cowboys. But then once you kind of go up, and then it's like you get humbled a little bit, and reality kind of sets in. But I still think, and this will depend, I don't know, I'm on the fence, but this will depend on how much more development is there in the tank for Bo Nix this season. I think that he's going to continue to develop and get better. But in terms of this season, how many more steps can he evolve? I don't know. I don't have a strong reference point as to what more can we expect. How much better can we get? Have we seen his ceiling for this season? I honestly don't know. I really, really don't. But I think because again, the way how I look at it is like, obviously if he continues to evolve and get better, and if there are another notches higher within the next few weeks leading into the playoffs, well, then it's like, I think it is a real possibility that they could be knocking out even some of these top teams. But even if he just stays at the ceiling, I think it's possible, but I'm not using all caps for my real possibility. It's kind of like, you need to play perfect ball. You need to play perfect ball. You can't miss a 48-yard field goal. You got to get it. You got to make sure that if it was between a fair catch and letting it bounce and it rolls to the 1-yard line, you better be right. It's like the margin of error is so small, especially if you're going to play a team like the Chiefs, who know how to play close games. It's like it just gets so small where it's just like any tiny little mistake, it's like it's going to be harder for you to overcome. And that's like that in most playoff games, but I think it would be especially true if the Broncos if they reach their ceiling where they are right now. And again, like I've said now, like I don't have strong feelings one way or the other in terms of have they reached their ceiling, or is there still room to grow, especially in that guy right there. So I'm excited to find out, and that's why I'm excited for a game like versus the Colts to kind of be like, all right, you're coming out after a little bit of a break here. You haven't played since December 2nd, so what do we got here? Because the Colts are going to be, again, a pretty interesting game, and to a degree almost stressful for the defense, I feel like, because it's so unpredictable, like it was versus the Browns. The Chargers, you're going to know what to expect. Even though the Chargers are a better team, obviously, they're just going to be more predictable. You're going to know who Justin Herbert is and what that offense wants to do. With the Colts, I don't know what they're going to do. Same thing then with the Bengals and then the Chiefs. So this is the most wild card game of the schedule for me. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix's his record and his stats versus opponents with a winning record versus not. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.